trying to do on the basis as much as the Obote I knew up to his death. I'm officially his permanent spokesperson, yes. And for the reason that I part give. You know, Obote was overthrown when he was in Singapore. He was actually leading the deliberations on the liberation struggles in South Africa. Parents could not pay 7,000 shillings for this building funds. So one family with two boys, in fact all these were boys, and then another one with one boy, and another one in senior two.
But Comrade Ochieno, you see, a child, in other words, will fail to go to school because he has failed to contribute to somebody's business. 7,000 shillings building fund. A fund going to build somebody's private business. Because if this is your school, this is your business. If I am a student who has come to you, I have come because I'm going to pay for the service.
Yeah.
After paying you school fees, now you say pay building fund. Building fund to fund a project which is private. But remember, I have come. It's like here now. We have come here. I have bought tea. Then you say you contribute to the cups. The Spy Uganda, the Spy Television, Andrew Irumba Live. Comrade Joseph Ochieno is, he told me he's one of the leaders of UPC. I wanted to say the president, but then he said there is a leadership crisis now. So I will ask him to introduce himself. Which title should I give him? I wanted to say UPC president, but now I would be now mentioning about 3 presidents. Akena, Warubiri, and now Joseph Ochieno. so for fear of not contradicting your leadership, let me ask you to be the one to say the exact title that I should use.
No, thank you for having me.
Yes.
It's possibly not even about fear of contradictions. It's primarily because before we came on air, we were discussing major African issues, Pan-Africanist issues, African politics, Ugandan political masses.
Ugandan politics.
Ugandan politics, as we'd call them. And in it, you were very generous to explain your own context. And part of that is, I think, the madness of all things of personal merit, politics, where people are so much about me, myself, and I. So I've seen that people tend to move very much for what is in it for them. And in many cases, it will be very much about power and positions, and of course then material gains. But next to that also is these things about titles. So yes, quite clearly the leader of Uganda People's Congress is president of Uganda People's Congress. I have chosen to deliberately not call myself president for the purposes of clarity, but also deliberately for posterity. And that is because since, unfortunately, Olaro Tunu was elected in 2010, Uganda People's Congress has not had an officially elected, declared president.
Even Media Bote Kalule?
No, but Dr. Olaro Tunu replaced Mama Mire.
Okay.
And so here, I mean, an election that has gone through the formal due process within the party and formally declared. So Olaro was the last duly elected.
Olaro Tunu was the last UPC president, legally elected, formally
yes.
Installed as a party leader.
And formally declared.
Formally declared.
I can claim that to date, but I'll explain. So when the replacement of Olaro came, there was an array of candidates, and Akena was one of them. And in that process, the party constitution had been amended that leadership candidates first win a particular threshold from the district conferences. Jimmy Akena won majority of those district conferences, fair enough. But they already had their own many different disputes. In short, Jimmy did two important things, both of which were bad and unconstitutional. One was to call what he called a consultative meeting, conference of delegates. It may or may not have been a majority delegates legally constituted. I mean, yeah, majority in terms of numbers, but he was basically Jim Akena, party member. He called them and constituted themselves into delegates conference, and then they declared him president.
When was this?
That is in 2015, 16. 2015 actually. So that was unlawful because
so an illegal assembly
that declares Jimmy president,
party president.
Party president. And then he was then calling himself party president elect. And then number two, he basically organized guys who basically went and chased Olaro Tunu as president of the party from Uganda House. You guys saw those headlines. I was very saddened by that because I'm not quite sure that's the politics that we should be involved in. So Olaro was literally chased away from Uganda House, but headquarters. Olaro had issues. I had stood against him. I had my own views about his leadership style. But he was our leader, and had been duly elected. And if we didn't like him, we needed to go through the process. Go through the process, and then we get a new leader. And if you're that person, you should be elected and then formally take the position. And so Jimmy did those two things. Then a number of party members went to court to sue. The High Court ruled against Jim Akena. Yes, that the process was irregular. So he appealed. But he appealed knowing that the appeal would take ages, and partly because of his other issue, which caused a relationship with the establishment.
His wife is a minister.
Plus many others, and some other deals. Possibly there'll be some kind of cadreship in the judiciary that might nicely extend. So this thing took 4 years. It took some of our campaigns up to 2019-20 for the Court of Appeal hearing to take place. In fact, I wrote in my then Sunday Monitor column challenging the judiciary. My article ran on a Sunday, and on Monday the matter was listed for hearing on Wednesday. So the appeal of Jimmy was dismissed, led by Lady Justice Irene Mlegonje. In a very fantastic ruling, she declared that Jimmy wasn't elected president in detailed ruling, submission ruling, and asked for fresh elections. Jimmy didn't participate in those elections. That's now when I came in. So I participated in that election myself.
Court ordered fresh elections.
For fresh elections.
Jimmy did not come back.
He did not come to participate in that election.
So how is he still the president?
Because
when he did not participate?
He had been now occupying Uganda House for the previous 4 or 5 years, and as I said, if you have the support of forces within town, then and in Kampala, you're intact.
Especially in Nakasero Road. Yeah.
Whatever the case, he was fairly comfortable in Uganda House. So elections took place, and the 4 candidates, one Dixon Opul, doctor, another Dr. Dan Okello, Peter Walubiri, and myself. I won those elections convincingly, but Walubiri was now the interim leader of the party, who had taken over from Joseph Bosa. It's a bit confusing, isn't it? Taken over from Joseph Bosa, who had taken over from Olaro Tunu, whom Olaro Tunu had formally handed over to the leadership because Bosa was Olaro's vice president. So Walubiri had the right to call for elections, to organize the election, which he did. I won, but Walubiri, with the Secretary General Isha Oto and some interesting young guy, Momino, they created a fudged secretariat somewhere in Mabirizi House, played around with figures, and declared Walubiri with 278 votes to my 271. Clearly, they didn't know that I had worked out my figures, I had my numbers, over 300 plus. I sought to engage, including the Electoral Commission of the party, but it didn't work. And so in March 17th, 2021, I decided to go to court. I went to court to seek a judicial review, knowing very well that a judicial review would take 6 months, and that was reasonable. Number two, I asked for a permanent injunction against Jimmy. So basically, my hope then was that the judicial review would quite clearly, with confidence, with all the witness statements and affidavits that are submitted, that I would be declared president, and Jimmy Akena would have a permanent injunction issued against him, and the UPC would settle with one clear new leader the issue of when Jimmy respectfully and responsibly leaves the party headquarters and hands over would be a different matter, together with Walobiri. That didn't happen because since then, it's now 4 years. The matter of judicial review has never been disposed of. This matter has gone through 3 different judges. I made a formal complaint to the principal judge, corporate chief justice and deputy, and these matters have thus far hit a blunt high. That sort of is the nature of the challenges in the party, but how it's impacted by the overall system of governance, where you question the role of the judiciary, you question the role of the executive, you question the role of the legislature. You and I the other day were having a conversation about how legislators can share billions of Uganda shillings when just down the road from where we are, people are struggling to get a meal worth 2,000 shillings because we're in Kampala, but really we know that up country 500 shillings would create a meal for a family. And so that's how bad it is. So that having been said, I chose not to call myself president for the reason that having been elected, I want to be declared formally, legally, president, and then I'll call myself president.
They bestow the title on you.
On me.
Not you to call it yourself.
Not me to claim it, but I have the authority. But I'm not calling myself.
So right now, would I be wrong to say UPC has 3 presidents, although you don't want to call yourself that title? There is Jim Akena, there is Peter Walobiri, then there is Joseph Ochieno.
No, you would be right to say that UPC has got 3 people who claim leadership. Because I don't want you to call Jimmy president, because it's not. And I don't want to call Walobiri president, because it's not. But I don't mind whatever you call me. You can call me president, but I really just don't call myself that, for the reasons that I've given. The reason why I'm emphasizing Jimmy is quite clearly, Court of Appeal ruled against him, and indeed Supreme Court further ruled against him 2023 again, actually.
What about the injunction What about the permanent injunction?
The permanent injunction is together with my judicial review. It has never been disposed of, and that is how pathetic it is, the judicial system in this country.
When did you submit that? When did you file that?
17th of March, 2021.
This is 2025.
This is 2025.
This is now about
4 years.
4 years.
4 years.
An injunction.
Yes.
On a party leadership.
Precisely. A constitutional matter
has not been heard.
Has not been heard. Has not been disposed of. No, it was heard once, and the judge actually gave us a day for ruling. That was Dr. Zazinga, who controversially the other day, you know him around town. And now I can very comfortably mention his name because it's pathetic, it's atrocious. He gave us a day of a ruling that they would have ruled on 9th December 2022 on a Friday. We went to court and he was on leave without direction. I was furious in court, but
You reached in court?
Yes.
He was not there?
He wasn't there.
And nobody had an answer?
Nobody had an answer.
So you don't know when again that ruling will be made?
I don't know. When I wrote to the principal judge, all he said was that Zazinga recused himself from the matter and that he'd given the matter to the head of the he'd given
Somebody else.
signed it to somebody else. But then you don't recuse.
Have you had yourself?
No.
Have you had from that somebody else?
No. And since then, I can say that recusing in law, you can't recuse. A judge can't recuse himself. I didn't say that I didn't want Zizinga to handle the case. All I asked her for was for an expeditious delivery, for him to deliver the matter. In any case,
which is
to
legal.
deliver the ruling, yes,
Which is lawful.
Precisely. And then whichever way he chose to do so, he could still have gone ahead and dismissed my application, whatever the case. And all I wanted was a result, an outcome. And then, but number two, you can't recuse yourself on a matter that is only pending a judgment.
Hey, I didn't know that.
No, you can't, because he had already gone through the process. The only thing which was waiting was judgment. So even if I said I didn't want him to make the judgment, it would be technical. But I didn't complain about that. All I simply said was, so why did the principal judge allow Zizinga to recuse himself?
It's an illegality.
It's an illegality, but it means both the principal judge knows what he's doing. The current, okay, actually, it's now the Deputy Chief Justice, by the way.
Who is that?
Dr. Zaija, yes. I met him, very decent guy. I met him in his office. He was very cordial with me, but I'm substantially disappointed the manner in which the matters came out.
But you see, Mr. Ochieno.
And so I wonder, do these guys want me to pull my matter and then I take it to the court martial, or do they want me to go to the Luero bushes which they've depleted?
You'll have to create your own. The matter you're raising, some people don't see far. The matter you're raising, for me, as a thinker, it takes me back to so many issues. Last week, a police officer was killed. Are you aware? In Ochieno.
No,
He had gone.
I don't have it.
He had gone to a burial, but that person had died in prison, and the cause of his death or the cause of his imprisonment was a land dispute. Court has taken years to dispose of the disagreement. You get it? Now, in the long run, one of the faction with money finds all means to jail this guy. This guy dies in prison. Now, the very prisoners, one of them comes to bury. That's where the problem began from. Now, the police, the prisons, and the entire government, and the entire populace of Uganda are actually focused on accusing of course, the illegality that happened, killing a person. It's wrong. But Mr. Ochieno, let's look at what is the root cause of this.
Mitigating circumstances. That's
what is the root cause?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You have been here, you have a disagreement in your leadership. This is a party, political party. 4 years, you've not been heard. Somebody who's not supposed to be leading is the one leading for 4 years and leading you.
Yeah.
Courts are just a stone throw away. These matters are just here. What type of brain are you still searching for to really find out whether Jimmy Akena is the rightful leader or not? What type of brains are you still gathering? So tomorrow, your supporters, Mr. Ochieno, and you, if you were a hooligan, if you go and uproot Jimmy Akena and Peter Olive by force, and 10 people die, the entire country will come full throttle on you and your supporters. Why are you doing this? This has happened in one day. They are not considering the amount of psychological torture you and your people are undergoing for the last 4 years. They are not imagining how much you are losing in terms of resources. They are not. They are not imagining how many people in UPC, members of UPC, are under stress. They are not. That's not the case. The day you wake up and go and slap Jim Akena and fight, that's when everybody will say, what's wrong with that, with Ochieno? What's wrong? How could you do that?
Or they want me to go.
The mob justice.
Or they want me to go and throw some stones
Yes.
at the judiciary.
The mob,
So
yes, the mob justice that judiciary is doing silently is too much to stomach. There is a case. My mother in the village struggled for a case for 11 years. Her husband died. The witnesses, one of them was butchered. He was cut into pieces. My mother started sleeping like you know, like a rat, hiding yourself. Your key witness, the man who bought, the man with whom our father bought land, the key witness who was there during the negotiation time and signed. Once our father died, they came and butchered the man along the road to kill the case. You get it? To kill the case. So once the key witness was butchered, now court started hearing the case. It was by God's grace that our mother won the case after 11 years.
It's tragic.
When she was paid, our lawyer was Musana. Musana was an FDC lawyer in Fort Porto.
I recall the name, yes.
You recall the name, Musana. Almost 70% of the money that this lady, because she had to sell that very land to pay the lawyer. But 70% of that money went to the lawyer because of the 11 years cost. So tell me that my mother got justice. So we see these things. By the time somebody stands up and beats somebody to death, a police officer, the anger is too much. But what has caused the anger? Go to these prisons. You find somebody has spent 5 years, he has never been brought to court.
Yeah.
By the time he comes back to the public domain, his wife has been taken, his children are long in school, his land has been... The person who jailed him wrongfully, his aim was that when he puts him out of circulation, he sells the land. By the time he comes back, he finds a 4-story building on his land. Tell me that person, if one day he wakes up at night and waylays you and slashes you, they are going to charge you of murder. They are going to say you're a very bad man. But actually the baddest man is the judiciary. Because if you had adjudicated that case successfully in a record time, everybody would have known I am correct and you are wrong. And we go, business ends. But now everybody keeps thinking that you are wrong and I'm right. And you also say you are right and I'm wrong. And that takes 10 years. Now in 10 years, remember, we are contesting over a property. So who should be occupying that property? Who should be using the property? These things are here.
And these cases are many, and they're daily and in this country.
They are here.
And you realize that I was explaining this while at the same time trying to avoid putting emotive emphasis. Partly because I'm a leader, but partly because of what you just referred. Partly because I recognize what this thing is trying to breed and build, particularly amongst the young Ugandans.
Yeah.
And that as a nation that has struggled with violence, and that a nation that sort of continues, unfortunately, to struggle with violence, if you see the kind of things that happened in Kawempe recently. And as a nation that, partly because of that violence, I told you that I was extremely disappointed to see just a minor manifestation of force being exhibited at Uganda People's Congress headquarters, a place of my much pride, the office that I believe should be the exemplary National Party headquarters, which of course it is. Uganda House is the pride of political party establishments in this country. But that is very far-fetched. But of course, if you consider fast forward to, as I introduced some of the conversations around politics of personality, the people who are now enjoying this are people who are driven by shortcuts, self-interests, and unfortunately, we end up with what you call poetry rather than politics.
Politics, we're in politics. Comrade Ochieno, just give us a hint for young people like these ones who never had an opportunity to live under UPC leadership.
Yes.
What did they miss? Is there something we missed? Because even me, I did not.
Even you missed it?
Yeah, I was born under Museveni's leadership.
Oh, you missed
I am going to die under Museveni's leadership.
You are not going to die under Museveni's leadership, in Jesus' name.
So what did we miss? Every time I see you, chain, UPC.
Yeah.
People, young politicians have joined FDC, have joined CP, have joined UPC, and left the party to NRM. Ochieno, Joseph. By the time I started hearing about you in UPC, you're still in UPC, you're going to... What is it that has kept you, clung on UPC that we don't see?
Because I'm fundamentally convinced that, thank you, that UPC is actually the future.
The future, it is now the past.
UPC...
It used to be the in thing.
I'll explain to you.
Right now, it's now the past.
UPC is the founding political party in this country. It's
not DP?
No, it's the founding political party. UPC was founded as Uganda National Congress in 1952. It was the first political party in this country.
UPC?
Uganda National Congress, which merged UNC.
Yes.
In 1959, they split, and one of the split factions, yes, led by Milton Obote, the primary faction when they expelled the president Ignatius Musazi. It elected Milton Obote as president in 1959. So in 1960, Obote was able to, and I take that inspiration, to reconcile the two different factions and create a reemergence of Uganda People's Congress. So it was basically a name change in 1960 as Uganda People's Congress. So our roots is in 52, and our founding father.
They've been telling me DP is the oldest party in Uganda.
DP was founded in 1954.
And UPC?
In 52.
Oh.
Yes, but of course, you can see there's this political pride about numbers and games rather than facts. DP was almost founded as a counter to Uganda People's Congress. In a way, if you can, it's a topic we can have, in a conversation we can have, which is quite understandable, partly because of the politics.
So it's not true that DP is the oldest party in Uganda?
It's not the oldest party. The Uganda National Congress, which is Uganda People's Congress, is the oldest political party, yes. So
tell us what we miss, we the young people, who never lived under your leadership.
Yes, I will actually use the roots to tell you that Uganda National Congress was the first Africanist political conscious organization that sought to campaign and advocate in Uganda for the emancipation of the African peoples, fair wages for African workers, fair prices for the African workers, fair prices for their produce.
No, that is
access to
Pan-Africanism.
Access to substance. Of course, we are the Pan-African.
That is Pan-Africanism.
We're the Pan-African political party. I'm coming to you.
Don't use that blood. Don't use that rope to take me to UPC. Because whenever there is Pan-African,
Congress is the future. Yeah. So above all, seeking access in a Uganda that was then a British colonial establishment, with the British Bazungu at the top, the Asians in the middle, and the ordinary African down, as the ordinary Ugandan. So that was the foundation, that linked. You can take it back to the Bataka Party in Uganda, if you have heard about the early 40s, where Africans beginning to agitate for access and rights and fairness and openness. So that's really rolls around our ideology. So from 1952, the speed and pace of the reawakening of Ugandan peoples, African peoples taking ownership, and also agitating for independence, pushed us to, of course, as I said, by 1960, after our Uganda People's Congress was formed as a party, 61, you see the lead role we play in managing to work fairly with DP, that was also now quite equally talking independence, but DP had their own issues here in Uganda, religious things and also the kingdom thing. But DP Mengo establishment and other kingdoms around the country seeking independence. So we led as Uganda Post Congress, because I said we are the mature. We were the lead political
you are the oldest party.
Yeah, but also
you are the lead.
Yeah, in terms of Pan-Africanist vision and an African independence
You had
vision,
the gist.
we had it, and so we pushed, and so.
So can we say you led us to?
Of course we did.
To independence.
No, of course we did. Of course we did. And by the way, that's why sometimes you'll find some people in DP or some people who don't want to give us credit to say that, we connived with the British, which was not the case.
That's what they say.
No.
Why do you say it was not the case? How did you?
There's no evidence.
How did you lose power to the?
You're taking me further ahead to losing power to Idi Amin.
Yeah.
Losing power to Idi Amin was not connivance with him. You can't be a Pan-Africanist and you say that. Amin was a vehicle that was used by imperialist forces.
Amin cannot have been an imperialist supporter when actually Amin was fighting imperialism. Amin is the one even who chased Asians from Uganda. Amin is the one who said that all these shops now should cease belong to foreigners and they belong to Ugandans. He can't be a machinery of the imperialists. Unless you want to insinuate that later on he changed again and acted against them.
I don't know how long you want this program to go, but
1 hour.
No, Amin was. I can assure you that. So you've pushed me to Amin before going back, but I can deal with that. No.
Okay.
No, for the powers of clarity, let's deal with it. Let's deal with it. No, Amin was used by imperialist forces. Amin was a subject of investigation and was supposed to be arrested in 1971 by Milton Obote, for the killing of Brigadier Okoya, and 2 for the gold scandals in Congo, where Milton Obote had sent him to Congo to support Lumumba's forces with the Pan-Africanists.
Lumumba?
Yes.
Patrice Lumumba?
Lumumba's forces, yes.
Patrice Lumumba?
Yes. But instead he got involved in the gold scandal, and of course it became a big issue. So he was supposed to be arrested, and then Israeli intelligence, of course now Britain, Israel and America, the usual suspects. Israeli intelligence went to Amin and told him that, look, when this guy comes back from Singapore, he's coming to arrest you, but we can help you to, you can preempt. So Amin did not overthrow the government on his own initiative. He was pushed to do so and was helped. That's why you hear, since you say you hadn't been born, that Israeli commandos were in charge of attacks in Kampala in January 1971. I'm saying this very importantly for this program. And I noticed that if some of these things you're not particularly familiar, we need to do another program on this, because it's very important the Africans, your African audiences, and particularly the younger, emerging Ugandan leaders understand
this history.
Our history. Extremely important. And so that is how Amin came. Now, so Amin was used to overthrow Milton Obote. But overthrowing Milton Obote was a mission of imperialists to dismantle the Africanist program that we had. One, the move to the left program, the Common Man's Charter, the nationalization of programs, the Africanization of the Ugandan economy, the Africanization of Africa, and particularly the fact that Milton Obote was officially the leader of the liberation struggles as the official spokesperson of the anti-apartheid movement. You'll know, if you didn't know, that
Milton Obote was the official spokesperson?
Precisely. Of the frontline states and anti-apartheid.
Obote?
Milton Obote, yes.
He know this.
The man that many of the people, particularly people conveniently want to give crude names. I'm telling one of the reasons why I'm UPC and I'm Obote's permanent spokesperson.
You're going to die in UPC.
I'm Milton Obote's permanent spokesperson. I don't know about UPC, but I can tell you I'm officially Milton Obote's permanent
Even
spokesperson.
in his grave, you're speaking for him.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do, on the basis as much as the Obote I knew up to his death. I'm officially his permanent spokesperson, yes. And for the reason that I part to give. Obote was overthrown when he was in Singapore. He was actually leading the deliberations on the liberation struggles in South Africa. They had together, as part of what they called the Mulungushi Club, with Julius Nyerere and Kenneth Kaunda, managed to mobilize majority African countries, mobilize Caribbean countries and some of the Asian countries to make them ready to pull out of the Commonwealth, meaning let the British Commonwealth die unless the British stopped armed sales to apartheid South Africa, and number two, they recognize Ian Smith's regime in Zimbabwe then in Zimbabwe at the time. Now, this is the Obote that we viled. This was the mission in Singapore. Stories about the possibility of a means overthrow was awash, but Obote went. For the record, there was a meeting before going to Singapore that involved Julius Nyerere, Kenneth Kaunda, Oliver Tambo of ANC, then president, while Mandela was in prison. And the issue was, should Milton go or not, since we know that these guys want to overthrow his government. Kenneth Kaunda told me personally that, oh, my son, it's my fault. In other words, because he broke the ice. He said, Milton, we need you in Singapore because you've done groundwork, So we needed to finish this Singapore thing. So Obote went to Singapore. So in a way, Obote was overthrown partly because you could argue he loved Africa more, and partly because he loved African liberation more. And I think, for the record, particularly sometimes I find it with our Southern African audience that sometimes forget this, but they should ask President Thabo Mbeki at his inauguration. If you read his inauguration speech, I was disappointed it was not explicit, but he even said that even governments were overthrown as a result of this. He was specifically referring to, amongst others, the government of Milton Obote, meaning you are Uganda government. And so that is it. But so that's the context of Amin and Obote and UPC. So the push for independence, meaning the negotiations in Lancaster, where UPC plays an important role, is that UPC and DP, as political parties, were able to persuade different kingdoms and have conversations about questions of the lost county, questions of federalism and others, and provide the political leadership in which we were able to come out an independence constitution and a date for independence. And so we did have that. And of course, granted, we won the elections, took over government. But most importantly, why I love this kind of leadership, which is absent in my country today and absent in this continent, is that although UPC won a small majority in 1962 elections, we were able to ask for a government of national unity, meaning that we were prepared to share power with everybody.
You are willing to share power?
We were able to share power to build the new nation. This really is my message.
Which is
I'm emphasizing this basically to feed part of your own earliest frustrations and submissions about these things about people, power, grabbing, and intolerance. It's a parliamentary system. We've won a small majority. We could form a government. But we're saying DP come in, KY come in, let's form a government of national unity. Now, for the young viewers, a government of national unity is one in which all parties come together and then you govern through consensus. Usually, government of national unities will happen either when there is a stalemate or when you want to deal with big national things, issues. Meaning, therefore, that, well...
You want cohesion in your country? You want
cohesion, precisely. And so, as a new nation, that's what we thought we would do. DP refused to join a government of national unity. DP. They're the ones who refused to join a government of national unity. And so, when they refused, UPC and KY agreed to form a coalition. Now, contrary to false information, it is the case that DP did not refuse because DP didn't want to work with UPC. DP refused because DP didn't want or couldn't work with KY. Again, particularly for viewers in Uganda and DP, people need to know the antagonistic relation between DP and KY, how DP was formed. Yes.
What was the problem? Kabaka Yeka was a Uganda party.
Kabaka Yeka was, sort of like King's Party. King's Party, yes, thank you.
Then DP a Protestant party?
No. The DP guys will say, no, DP emerged as a political party that spoke for the advancement of Catholic interests.
Yeah.
From the 1892 Anglo-Catholic War in Uganda, where the Protestants won, defeated Catholics. For a long time, the Catholics felt marginalized, and so when from 1892, so by 1951, 52, when Uganda National Congress was being founded, the Catholics in Buganda felt substantially marginalized. So when Uganda National Congress was founded, led by a Muganda Protestant, Ignatius Musazi, and the majority of the leaders were predominant Protestants, because Protestants had been substantially privileged. The Catholic establishment saw this as a threat and say, oh, why are we in trouble? Entebbe State House is controlled by the Protestant establishment of the British. Mengo is controlled by the Protestant establishment of the kingdom. Now there's a political party which has been founded and is led by a Protestant. So they saw UPC as a Protestant party, but UPC is not a Protestant. I'm a very, very proud, active Catholic. UPC was founded predominantly by Protestants, but it's an ideologically driven political party, and that's what I wanted to come to.
So it has nothing to do with religion?
It has nothing to do with religion.
But it's
an African nationalism. Talk about progressive socialism. Talk about it. Social democracy. Uganda.
Unfortunately, that's the narrative that was driven by then, and it still lingers.
It is driven by people opposed to UPC, and it's driven by people who also don't know, and it's deliberately driven. And it's actually sad, because maybe towards the end of this conversation, one of the things to be able to bring out, that the young Africans need to get into politics of issues, politics of ideology, and that in so doing, they should join political parties with sets of values, and that I will tell them that political parties, as you know, are traditionally either to the right or to the left. Socialist or capitalist, you can say that so. And conversations will be about whether or not a political party like Uganda People's Congress believes in big taxes, the role of big governments and things like that, the roles in public services, taxation, things like that. Fast forward to bring it to the NRA, what you can now call Musevenomics, and you say, what is the role of government? Role of government is to share public money, or role of government is to provide public services? Role of government is to give free national land to dubious foreign, quote, investors, or role of government is to create an enabling environment in which there's a thriving economy, in which there's employment, particularly for young people. Role of government is one for which to create access to universal free education, as UPC did and declared as far as 1968, 69. We're talking universal education as early as that time. And we're talking universal primary education as early as 1970.
But did you offer that universal education?
We did. We offered free university education in 1964, within 2 years of independence.
What are some of the national leaders that started free?
Museveni would not have gone. Museveni would not have left for you in Barara if it was not for free UPC education. He wouldn't.
Hey.
I studied for free in Makerere University, and I was paid to study. Me of the 70s and of the 80s.
They pay your school fees, and you are paid for study.
You're paid to study.
And Museveni is one of the beneficiaries of the UPC system.
Museveni, in fact, benefited more, because those of us who came in after Idi Amin, things that now stabilized. You check with your parents and other people, you'll be told that even after the 70s, during Idi Amin's time, you go to lunch in Makerere, lunch in Mitchell Hall was like equivalent of lunch in Sheraton.
Hey.
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes, and university students, you get travel allowance. Somebody from Kasese would get more travel allowance than somebody from Kampala or Masaka.
Yeah.
You get free travel allowance. You get what we call boom, meaning student allowance. That's what I'm saying. You paid salaries to them. You get everything. Now,
and in fact, they would book you for a job even before you finish?
I know that just before I got into trouble with Museveni in 1987, I know that in 1986, I know 85 actually, no 84, I know a friend of mine who got 2 jobs. He was the last second last president of the Secretary General of the National Union of Students of Uganda, NUSU, which has now been changed. He got a job, an offer in Ministry of Justice and Bank of Uganda, and he was in University Hall, and I'd gone to visit him. I was then just in my A level, and I said, Joseph, now what do I do? Well, which one do I go for?
You have 2 options.
Yeah, which one do I go for?
He go to Bank of Uganda where there is
That's
money.
correct. That is in 19.
Is that why he went?
I don't remember. I think he went to Ministry of Justice.
I go where there is money. We are the one who's in charge of
No,
money.
but no. Actually, interestingly, at the time, it was not about that. This madness is here. Working in Bank of Uganda does not mean therefore that you take all these loots. Some of the things maybe you go to Ministry of Justice because you want to progress in a particular. In any case, you would genuinely progress, and by the time you become a permanent secretary, you're not an IT.
You're not an IT. Why are you bringing an IT?
I'm just using an example.
Why did you use Irumba?
No, okay, Rumba. So we did that. But you're asking me why? At Independence, what do? We put a program for national economic development between 1962 at Independence. By 1965, in 1962 at Independence, Africans in this country controlled only 12% of our national economic GDP. Africans. Take note of that. By 1965, at Independence, meaning 3 years, that number had gone to 35%.
In a space of 3 years.
Merely 3 years. And so opened up cooperatives, opened up schools. The stories that you'll hear, so that by 1970 we had opened up secondary schools around the country, primary schools for every sub-country, dispensaries, health facilities in every sub-country and country, girl child schools, deliberate Toro girls, Nabisunsa, Wanyange, Berenyange, Namasingal was private. But these private schools and missionary schools, all of them also got dormitories. The Namagungas, which were then established, you go to every school, it had a new dormitory, meaning expansion of educational systems across. And then a government legislation that says that you not only go to a school because of your religion, something like that. You'll go to a school of your choice and you'll be admitted down there. But government had created the spaces. That was done. So that if you look at what UPC then did in that period of time, by the time of Amin's coup, we had the best civil service on record on the African continent. We're providing a universal education except primary and secondary and O-level. And nobody told me this himself, that primary education was subsidized, not free, but subsidized, highly subsidized, more subsidized than the amount of money government today pays per child in UPE. Take note. O-level education was subsidized, far more subsidized than anything that an average child would pay today. The rest of education was completely free.
UPC time.
UPC time.
So that's one thing that the young generation now misses from the UPC.
100%. So,
but
let me just add that. And often studied for free, regardless. So it also means that after your PLE, if you finish PLE and you don't go to secondary school and you want to go to teacher training college or any of the tertiary institutions, it was free. If you finish senior 4 and you don't go to A level, which was free anyway, and then you want to go to any of the grade 2 grade 3 teacher training, it was free. Surely, fast forward to what we are today.
There is a free primary education, free secondary education, and some free university.
Which one? Now?
Yes.
No.
At Makerere, when you have the government pass mark, you go and study.
No, because I don't.
Primary is
what do you call government pass mark? I saw the list the other day. By then that government government list thing, I saw I think 4 names from Toro district.
Those are the ones who passed the government pass mark.
You see 4 names from Toro district. Now in my time, I know that in my own secondary school were possibly more than 4. You contextualize that. Number 2, in the last 2 weeks, I have offered to take children away from the villages whose parents could not pay 7,000 shillings for this building funds. So one family with two boys, in fact all these were boys, and then another one with 1 boy, and another one in senior 2.
But Comrade Ochieno, you see, a child, in other words, will fail to go to school because he has failed to contribute to somebody's business. 7,000 shillings building fund. A fund going to build somebody's private business. Because if this is your school, this is your business. If I am a student who has come to you, I have come because I'm going to pay for the service.
Yeah.
After paying you school fees, now you say pay building fund. Building fund to fund a project which is private. But remember, I have come. It's like here now. We have come here. I have bought tea. Then you say, you contribute to the cups. To the cups.
But it is very nice.
Which,
yes.
The cups that we are serving you in, please contribute. And even when I have bought tea, if I have not contributed to the cup, I will not be served tea. This is what the schools are doing. I am able to pay school fees, but you are saying go back home and bring 7,000 building fund. And when you don't bring it, you don't come to school. And the government is watching. Why should I contribute to your business?
That is why I'm saying that the state in which we are is not only a state of anarchy, but I find it very worrying. Because when I started primary school, the classroom I first went to in primary 1 in St. Joseph's in Agongar Boys, I go around the country today.
You don't see them?
I don't see them. And this is in the rural Uganda. It's not surprising that I went on to be declared a genius in my primary school.
Hey, you were the genius?
Yes. Jumped classes and got excellent stuff. But we'll talk about that another time. I am completely convinced that the foundation of my family, the environment in which I was, the environment in school, the fact that we had all the scholastic materials in Nagongera. In primary 1, I was class monitor on day 1 in that morning. In an election of 5 of us, I think 5 of us, yes, I became class monitor. So since on day 1, I started being responsible for counting sticks, which was very nice.
For what?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In P1.
Yeah.
Which I don't know whether these days are in some of these classes. But it was in a rural primary school provided for by government, then founded by Uganda People's Congress. In primary 2, we had exercise books. Those exercise books and textbooks, me, the class monitor, is the one who gives out. In fact, when you finished, when one book of yours is used, they used to give us half books. Yeah, you bring it to the class monitor, I'm the one who checks, and then again pick a new one in the wardrobe and take to the teacher. No, I give to the teacher because the teacher will now be the one to write your name, because by then I didn't know how to write names properly yet. Primary 2, textbooks. Fast forward to today. I tell people, I completed my primary school. I don't remember more than once when I heard that some child stole something. Maybe someone stole somebody's soya, one of those rare things. Why would you steal a book? Because both textbooks and exercise books were provided free by the state. By the way, this is the ideological thing that I was trying to talk about, and maybe we're having a general conversation here. Public services as provided by a socialist or socially democratic political party like Uganda People's Congress that believes in public services, that believes therefore that you deliver public services through taxation, that use monetary and fiscal policies to balance issues of the economy, and that you rejiggle to address questions of inflation, you rejiggle to address questions of unemployment, and that you rejiggle to address questions of investment, domestic investment, and you rejiggle to address questions of public debt. and that rejiggle to invest, to focus on key priorities in terms of infrastructure and agriculture and public needs. That is politics. Now that's what makes UPC different from NRA, where you go ahead and outsource everything of governance and you leave it to private sector. For example, UPC founded Uganda Commercial Bank.
Hey.
Yes.
Hey, UCB.
Uganda Commercial Bank.
Which was sold to
yes.
Stanbic.
We founded Uganda
at
Commercial.
Some $200.
I don't know.
Or something like.
Yes.
I remember.
Yes.
$200. I think around that. Not so sure of the figure, but it was as cheap as that.
And the establishment Uganda Electricity Board, UEB, and others. Yes. The language you hear, so-called rural electrification, was a contextual terminology of the 60s.
60s.
And
this regime has been saying it like it's a new innovation.
Indeed, and pushed in the 80s. And
I was thanking them for thinking deeper for me.
My brother. The minister for what they call power, posts and telecommunications, under which electricity would be, in Obote II government, is still alive now, fair an old man, but in London, Mr. Akena, an engineer. He told me that Obote chastised him in 1984. According to him, Obote was very impatient with the pace of the electrification program. So he didn't do, and that's now another leadership, where this old man is telling me that Obote chastised him, meaning conceding that maybe there's some ways on error. So young viewers, learn to put up your hands and learn to, and say sorry, and learn also to give credit where it is.